The cameras are rolling. The lights are bright. The audience is hushed in anticipation. A live broadcast, one that was supposed to be just another dull political debate, is about to become a defining moment in American political discourse. John Cornyn stands at the podium, his smug expression impossible to ignore. He's been known for his sharp tongue, but today, something is different. His confidence borders on arrogance. He leans into the microphone, and his voice rings out in a sarcastic tone. "Well, it's clear we've got someone here who's more interested in headlines than actually helping people," Cornyn sneers, eyes flashing to Jasmine Crockett, who's sitting just across the table. The words hit like a punch to the gut. For a split second, the entire room freezes. The air crackles with tension, and the audience collectively holds its breath. Crockett's face remains unreadable, but the shock of the remark hangs in the air, palpable and thick. The camera zooms in on her, catching every tiny shift in her expression. Her eyes narrow, not in anger, but in something far more dangerous: calm, calculated resolve. The mocking words reverberate throughout the room, cutting through the silence like a blade. The tension in the air is almost tangible, and it's as if time slows. Cornyn smirks, clearly relishing the moment, as he waits for Crockett to react. The crowd is on edge. Will she falter? Will she give in to the provocation? But Crockett doesn't flinch. She leans forward, her hands clasped, her eyes locked on Cornyn. She's heard worse, faced greater battles. And the moment he's been waiting for, her response, hasn't come yet. The silence stretches, unbearable. And then, Crockett speaks, her voice calm and controlled, but there's a sharpness beneath it. It's clear she's not just ready to respond, she's prepared to make this moment hers. The camera pulls back, and the audience leans forward. The stakes have just been raised. What happens next will change everything. The room feels smaller now, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone. Cornyn's remark isn't just a personal jab at Jasmine Crockett, it's a reflection of the ongoing battle that has played out in this country for generations. A battle for recognition, for respect, for a seat at the table, especially for those whose voices have long been silenced or dismissed. Jasmine Crockett, a force to be reckoned with, is no stranger to the politics of erasure. As a woman of color, as a progressive in a sea of establishment figures, she's fought her way through the ranks, challenging the status quo at every turn. But this isn't just about her. It's about every immigrant, every marginalized group that has been told their voice doesn't matter, that they don't belong, that their fight is too small, too insignificant. Cornyn's history of dismissing voices like hers is well known, well documented. For years, he's been a staunch defender of the old guard, the power structures that have kept the system rigged against anyone who doesn't fit into a narrow mold. His comments aren't just an insult, they're part of a larger, well-established pattern. A pattern of speaking over the people who dare to challenge him, of belittling the rising voices that threaten to disrupt his comfortable, predictable world. For the millions watching at home, this is more than just a debate. This is a moment of reckoning. Jasmine Crockett represents a shift, a move away from the same tired rhetoric and the same tired politics that have failed to serve the people for so long. Every word that Cornyn throws at her is a reminder of how far we've come, and yet, how much further we still need to go. Her supporters, the ones who've rallied behind her through every speech, every protest, every fight, know what's at stake. This isn't just a personal battle between two politicians, it's a battle for the future of the country, for a future where voices like hers are heard, valued, and respected. They've watched her rise with hope in their hearts, and now, they're watching her face down the man who's spent his career silencing voices like theirs. But it's more than that. The world is watching, too. The audience in the room, the media, social media, all of them are tuned in. This moment, this confrontation, will be seen by millions. It's a chance for Crockett to stand tall, to prove that the rising tide of change cannot be held back. The stakes have never been higher. And Cornyn knows this. He knows that with every insult, with every attempt to undermine her, he risks alienating an entire generation of voters, the same voters who are tired of being told their concerns don't matter, their struggles don't count. His power, built on years of status and influence, is not as solid as it once was. Every mockery, every attempt to belittle Crockett chips away at his authority, his credibility. But there's something more, something deeper at play here. Cornyn's mocking words are not just an attempt to put down a political rival, they're an attempt to dismiss an entire movement. To make it clear that people like Crockett don't belong in the halls of power. That they're not welcome in the spaces where the future of the nation is being shaped. This moment, this confrontation, is more than just a personal clash. It's a fight for the soul of the country. And when Crockett finally responds, when she delivers her comeback, it will not just be for her, it will be for every single person who has ever been told they don't matter. Every person who has ever been made to feel small by the establishment. The tension in the room thickens. All eyes are on Crockett now. What happens next changes everything. Will she crumble under the pressure, or will she rise to meet this moment? The answer will not only determine the outcome of this debate, it will define the course of the political future. John Cornyn has spent his career in the upper echelons of American politics, rising through the ranks with a smooth, calculated ease that only comes with decades of carefully curated alliances and a reputation for playing the game by the rules, his rules. For years, he's been a fixture in the Senate, a steadfast protector of the old guard, and an unwavering champion of the status quo. His face has become synonymous with power, authority, and a certain kind of polished, well-mannered arrogance that permeates his every public appearance. Born into a world of privilege, Cornyn's path was laid out for him long before he ever stepped onto a political stage. He had the right connections, the right education, and the right pedigree. It's no surprise that, as a young man, he was quick to align himself with the conservative establishment, the party of tradition, order, and control. His political career was not defined by grand, sweeping ideals or fiery speeches for the common people. No, Cornyn's rise was defined by his willingness to toe the line, to keep his head down, and to do what needed to be done to climb the ladder. But beneath this polished exterior lies something darker. Cornyn's reputation for belittling those who challenge him, those who dare to upset the delicate balance of power he's so carefully crafted, is well established. His history is marked by a pattern of dismissing voices that don't fit the mold of his vision for America. He's known for making snide remarks, for undermining opponents with biting sarcasm and condescending gestures. For Cornyn, politics is a game, a performance where only those who can navigate the backstage maneuvering are deserving of a seat at the table. And when a younger, more diverse voice like Jasmine Crockett enters the scene, Cornyn sees a threat, not just to his position, but to the entire system he spent his career upholding. He doesn't see her as a force of change or a representative of the people. He sees her as an anomaly, an upstart who dares to challenge the carefully constructed narrative of who belongs in the halls of power. In Cornyn's eyes, Crockett is everything he spent years pushing against, young, outspoken, and unabashedly different. This is not the first time Cornyn has dismissed a voice like hers. He's spent years mocking those who rise up, who challenge his narrative. He's belittled young activists, marginalized voices, and anyone who has dared to confront the inequalities embedded in the system. He doesn't understand the power of those voices, doesn't respect the gravity of what they represent. To him, they are nuisances, distractions, something to be brushed aside with a sarcastic remark or a dismissive wave of the hand. When Cornyn takes aim at Crockett in that live TV moment, he's not just mocking her, he's attempting to reassert his dominance in a world that's quickly shifting around him. He's trying to remind the audience, and perhaps himself, that he is still the one in charge, still the one who dictates the terms of engagement. The problem is, Crockett isn't like the others. She's not intimidated by his decades of experience or his carefully cultivated public image. She's not going to cower in the face of his arrogance. Cornyn's comments may have been meant as a tactical strike, a way to throw her off balance, but they reveal much more about him than they do about her. They expose his deep-seated fear of losing control. His mockery is a defense mechanism, a way of protecting himself from the reality that the world around him is changing, and that he is no longer the most powerful voice in the room. His condescension is the shield he raises when faced with something he doesn't understand or can't control. But what Cornyn doesn't realize is that his actions are beginning to backfire. His dismissiveness is no longer effective, it's becoming increasingly transparent. The world is starting to see through his polished veneer, and what they find beneath it is not the seasoned, wise politician he's tried to present, but a man desperately clinging to a fading era of political dominance. In his efforts to belittle Crockett, he's revealing his own insecurities, his own contradictions. He's a man who has spent decades building his power by keeping others down, by diminishing voices that challenge him. But the more he tries to suppress voices like Crockett's, the more those voices grow louder. The more he mocks and belittles, the more he alienates the very people he's supposed to represent. For every mocking word, every condescending glance, Crockett's supporters grow stronger. They see Cornyn for what he truly is, a relic of a past that no longer serves the people. They recognize the arrogance in his words, the weakness in his attacks. They see him for the villain he's become, and they know that it's only a matter of time before he's exposed for what he is, a man too afraid to embrace the change he so desperately clings to. This is no longer just a battle between two politicians. It's a battle between the old guard and the new wave of politics, a fight between those who are willing to stand on the side of progress and those who will do anything to hold on to the power they've long held. And as Cornyn delivers his mocking jab, he's not just underestimating Crockett. He's underestimating the power of the people who stand behind her. In that moment, as his words echo through the room, Cornyn might just have sealed his own fate. He's made his move, and now the ball is in Crockett's court. Jasmine Crockett didn't arrive in the political arena by accident. Her rise was forged in the fires of hardship, shaped by the kind of adversity that many people never have to face, but that some never escape. Born and raised in the heart of Dallas, Crockett's early life was far from the idealized American dream so often portrayed in the media. Raised in a neighborhood that many would have written off, she learned early that survival wasn't guaranteed, it had to be earned. Her mother, a single parent, worked multiple jobs to provide for Jasmine and her siblings. Theirs was a home where every dollar counted, where every opportunity had to be fought for, where every success was a step towards something more than just making it through the day. Crockett learned that people like her, people from her community, were rarely given chances, were rarely given the benefit of the doubt. They were dismissed, ignored, and treated like they were invisible. But in that environment, Crockett didn't just survive, she thrived. From a young age, Crockett had an instinct for justice. It wasn't something she learned in textbooks or at fancy dinner tables, it was something she lived every day. Watching her mother struggle to make ends meet while working in jobs that offered no security, no real hope for the future, Crockett knew that the system wasn't designed for people like them. It wasn't designed for people who didn't have power, who didn't have privilege, who didn't have the right connections. Her determination was built not on a sense of entitlement, but on a deep, unshakable belief that if something was wrong, it had to be fixed. If something needed to change, she would be the one to push for it. From her earliest days in school, Crockett was the one standing up for her classmates who were bullied, the one questioning authority when it felt unjust. She didn't just want to be the loudest voice in the room, she wanted to be the one who made sure that everyone's voice was heard, especially the voices that had been silenced for so long. Her path to politics wasn't a smooth one. Like many in her community, Crockett faced her fair share of setbacks. She encountered prejudice, both for being a woman and for being someone whose voice didn't fit the mold of traditional political power. She was often told that she was too outspoken, too unrefined, too angry to succeed in a world that valued conformity and silence. And yet, with every insult, with every door slammed in her face, she pushed harder. Her time at college was transformative. As the first in her family to attend, Crockett faced the kind of imposter syndrome that many students from disadvantaged backgrounds experience. She wasn't just learning about history and politics, she was also learning how the system was stacked against people like her. But rather than retreating, she leaned in, determined to excel in an environment that felt foreign and hostile. She studied hard, fought for internships, and networked with people who were often dismissive, at best, of her ambitions. Law school was another hurdle. As a black woman in a field dominated by men, Crockett had to prove herself twice as much, if not more. She faced the skepticism of professors who underestimated her abilities, and the doubt of peers who saw her as an anomaly in a system that wasn't built for people like her. She fought back by excelling in her coursework and pushing herself beyond what was expected, but also by making space for others like her. She became a champion for diversity, for representation, and for ensuring that marginalized voices were heard in every room she entered. Her transition into politics came naturally. She wasn't running for office because she wanted power, she was running because she wanted to fix what was broken. She wanted to challenge the very systems that had kept her and so many others in a state of perpetual struggle. As a young lawyer, Crockett worked tirelessly in her community, advocating for criminal justice reform, fighting for affordable housing, and working with organizations that empowered black and brown communities. She didn't just talk the talk, she walked the walk, living the values she preached and fighting for the things that truly mattered. And yet, even as she worked tirelessly for the people, even as she fought to create a more equitable future, she was constantly reminded that she wasn't supposed to be in politics. The barriers were high, the expectations were low, and the resistance was relentless. But Crockett persisted. She knew that the work wasn't about her, it was about those who had been overlooked for far too long. It was about the single mothers, the immigrants, the children who didn't have a voice, the workers who were exploited, the communities that were left behind. Her decision to run for office was a natural progression of everything she had already fought for. It wasn't about ambition, it was about justice. It was about ensuring that the voices of people like her family, like her community, were no longer silenced. It was about giving the people who had always been told no a seat at the table, and making sure their struggles were never again ignored. Now, as she faces down John Cornyn, the stakes have never been higher. This moment, this confrontation, isn't just about proving herself, it's about proving that there is power in every voice, even the ones that have been silenced for far too long. Crockett is not just fighting for herself, she's fighting for every person who has ever been told they don't belong in these spaces. She's fighting for a future where people like her can lead, can speak, and can shape the future without being told they are not worthy. And as she faces Cornyn's mockery, she knows this isn't just a test of her resolve, it's a test of everything she's worked for, everything she's sacrificed. Every failure, every rejection, every obstacle she's faced has led to this moment. She's prepared. She's ready. And she knows that this is her time to show the world what real power looks like. The room has shifted. The once jovial air has turned into something more charged, something electric. The audience sits on edge, hanging on every word, every glance exchanged between the two political titans. John Cornyn, his posture rigid and smug, leans in again. His eyes narrow with that same dismissive look that he's worn throughout his career, a look that's become his trademark. You know, Jasmine, some people are better off sticking to what they know, Cornyn says, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. After all, we wouldn't want to let idealism cloud good judgment, would we? It's cute that you think you can change things, but change isn't always what people want. Sometimes, it's just about keeping the system running smoothly. His words carry that unmistakable arrogance, the kind of arrogance that's made him the embodiment of establishment politics. The camera lingers on Crockett. Her face is a study in control, her eyes steady and unblinking, betraying no hint of the storm brewing beneath the surface. She's heard it all before, the belittling, the patronizing, the demeaning words that men like Cornyn think will break her. But she doesn't flinch. She doesn't need to. She knows that power lies not in responding to every insult, but in choosing the moment to speak, choosing the moment to reclaim the narrative. Cornyn leans back, clearly pleased with his verbal jab, waiting for her to crack. His lips curl into a faint smile, almost as if he's won already. But Crockett doesn't react. She remains a fortress of calm in the midst of the storm. The tension rises. The silence is palpable, hanging in the air between them, thick and heavy. The crowd, too, seems to hold its breath, sensing that the next exchange is about to take this debate to another level. Cornyn's smirk widens. He knows he's landed a punch. I understand why you'd be frustrated, though, Cornyn continues, his voice oozing with feigned empathy. But not everything can be solved by idealistic notions of equality and justice. Sometimes, the system is what it is. You can't just change it overnight. His eyes flicker to the audience, as though seeking validation, ready to bask in the approval of the room. But the camera focuses again on Crockett, her unwavering gaze locked on him. She's unshaken, unmoved. There's a calmness about her that makes Cornyn's words seem small, almost desperate. You know, John, Crockett begins, her voice soft but deliberate. The crowd shifts in their seats. This is the moment they've all been waiting for, the moment when Crockett, so poised and composed, finally speaks. But there's no fiery outburst, no rash emotion, just cool, calculated control. I think it's fascinating that you're so comfortable with the system that's been failing people for generations. But then again, you've always been a man who benefits from that system, haven't you? There it is. The first hint of a challenge, a flicker of something that tells Cornyn he's about to face the real fight. But Cornyn doesn't back down, he never does. He chuckles lightly, as if Crockett's words are beneath him. Ah, yes, the old, systemic oppression line, Cornyn responds, raising an eyebrow. I see we're going for the emotional appeal now. How predictable. But the fact remains, Jasmine, you're fighting against something far larger than you, and frankly, it's not your idealism that's going to change that. His voice cuts through the air, sharp and condescending. He's trying to goad her, trying to poke at her calm, trying to crack the armor. But Crockett remains steady, unflinching. Her eyes never leave his, and as his words hang in the air, she simply lets them fall to the floor, irrelevant, meaningless. The camera zooms in on her. It's as if the world is waiting for her to respond, for her to finally raise her voice, to let the storm out. But she doesn't. Not yet. Cornyn, sensing the growing tension, presses on. His next words come fast and hard, an attempt to corner her into a defensive position. You see, Jasmine, the reality is simple, people like you and me, we don't always get to have everything our way. You want change, sure, but change takes time. It takes compromise. It takes understanding. His words are dripping with faux reason, a careful attempt to mask his underlying disdain. You can't just snap your fingers and make the world a better place. Life doesn't work like that. And then, almost as an afterthought, he adds with a sneer, but I suppose you wouldn't understand that. After all, you've never been in the room where the real decisions are made. That's it. The line that crosses the threshold. The insult is more than just a personal jab now, it's a reminder of his belief that people like Crockett don't belong in those rooms, that she doesn't have the experience or the authority to challenge him. The implication is clear, she's an outsider. A dreamer. And as far as Cornyn is concerned, she's out of her depth. The crowd stirs again. There's a collective sense that something is coming. The room is heavy with anticipation. Even Cornyn can feel it now, his confidence is beginning to slip. His smirk fades, just for a moment. The unspoken challenge in the air is undeniable. Crockett hasn't spoken yet. But the look in her eyes tells a different story. She's been patient. She's been measured. But the time for playing it cool is almost over. And Cornyn knows it. That much is clear. The audience waits with bated breath. It's only a matter of time before the moment comes, and when it does, everyone in the room will know, this fight is far from over. The room falls into a heavy silence, a stillness that hangs in the air like the calm before a storm. Cornyn's words echo in the minds of the audience, and for a fleeting moment, it seems as if he's won. But that's just it, this isn't his moment to claim. This is Crockett's time. She sits there, composed, yet the tension in her posture is unmistakable. Her hands remain steady on the table, but there's an energy radiating from her, something simmering just beneath the surface. The audience knows it. Cornyn knows it. He's watching her closely, his smug smile now faltering ever so slightly. He senses the shift, but he doesn't understand it, not yet. Mr. Cornyn, Crockett begins, her voice calm but sharp as a blade. She doesn't raise it. She doesn't need to. Every word is measured, precise, and full of purpose. The camera zooms in on her face, capturing the stillness in her eyes, the unwavering confidence in her demeanor. You've spent your entire career protecting a system that is fundamentally broken. You've made a career of telling people like me that we don't belong in these spaces. But here's the thing, John. The pause is deliberate, a beat that lingers long enough for the tension to crack. The audience leans in, waiting for her to continue, waiting for the storm. She doesn't disappoint. The reality is, you've spent your whole life maintaining that system. You've told everyone that it works the way it is, and that anyone who thinks otherwise is just idealistic, naive, or unqualified. You've claimed the high ground, John, but all you've done is build a fortress around your privilege and call it progress. A ripple goes through the room. You can hear the shift in the air, the sound of Cornyn's words fading, the echo of his condescension shrinking. He shifts in his seat, his expression momentarily faltering. But Crockett isn't finished. Let's talk about your system, Cornyn, she continues, her tone still cool but now laced with the unmistakable strength of someone who has lived through the very struggles he dismisses so easily. Let's talk about the system that's worked so well for you. A system that leaves families in poverty while the wealthy get tax breaks. A system that sends children to overcrowded schools while the elite send their kids to private institutions. A system that takes away healthcare from millions of Americans while you sit in your office, raking in lobbyist dollars. That system. It's failed the people. It's failed the very people who you claim to represent. The room is charged now. Crockett's words are hitting their mark, each one cutting through Cornyn's defense like a hot knife through butter. She's not shouting. She's not angry. She's delivering truth with clarity, with precision, and it's more devastating than any emotional outburst could ever be. Cornyn's mouth tightens. His arrogance, once so firmly rooted in his demeanor, now wavers. He shifts again, his hands clenching on the table, his eyes darting from her to the crowd, looking for some kind of support, but the room is no longer on his side. The camera catches his unease, the uncertainty creeping into the lines of his face. Crockett leans forward, her next words cutting through the silence like thunder. And yet, here I am, standing before you. Not because I've played by your rules. Not because I've kissed up to people like you. But because I've fought for every single step I've taken. Because I've seen the cracks in your system, the cracks you pretend don't exist. And I've decided to do something about it. Because when I see people like you telling me that change is impossible, all I hear is a call to action. The audience shifts again, murmurs running through the crowd. Some are nodding in agreement. Others are leaning forward in anticipation, captivated by her words. But Crockett doesn't give them time to settle. She presses on, her voice growing steadier, stronger. You said we can't just snap our fingers and make the world a better place. You're right, John. We can't. But we can stand up, we can speak out, and we can change the system that's been rigged against people like me, people like the ones I represent. She pauses again, and the crowd is hanging on her every word. I'm not here for your approval. I'm not here to play by your rules. I'm here because the future doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the people who are willing to break those rules, to challenge the status quo, to fight for something better. Her eyes lock onto Cornyn's, and for a brief moment, the entire room seems to hold its breath. She lets the silence linger, letting her words sink in. The weight of her message is undeniable. And let me be clear, John, I'm not some idealistic dreamer. I'm a fighter. I've fought my whole life for what I believe in, and I've watched the system you've defended time and time again fail people like me. You want to talk about change? This is it. Change doesn't come from those who sit back and protect their power. It comes from those who stand up, who speak truth to power, and who demand justice. And that's exactly what I'm doing here today. The camera captures Cornyn's shifting expression. He's trying to maintain his composure, but the cracks are wide open now. His eyes dart toward the audience, but they're no longer his allies. He can feel the shift, the seismic change in the room. Crockett's calm, controlled delivery is utterly disarming. She has taken everything he has thrown at her and turned it back onto him, with such precision and grace that he's left fumbling for words. But there are none. There's a palpable shift in the room, a collective inhale, as if the audience is finally breathing again, after holding their breath for so long. The moment is electric. The stakes are clear. Cornyn, his arrogance completely shattered, stares back at Crockett, unwilling to respond. And in that silence, Crockett's victory is already sealed. The crowd erupts, a wave of applause washing over her. The room shakes with the force of it, and for a moment, it feels like the world itself is acknowledging what just happened. Crockett has not only defended herself, she has dismantled Cornyn's entire narrative, his entire career, with nothing more than truth, dignity, and the quiet power of her words. And as the applause continues, Crockett stands tall, a beacon of what's possible when the quiet, determined fight for justice outweighs the hollow sound of privilege. She has made her mark, and the world is watching. It doesn't take long for the shockwaves from Crockett's mic drop moment to ripple across the globe. What was once a heated political exchange now becomes something much larger, a viral symbol, a clarion call for those who've been ignored, dismissed, or belittled. Social media lights up with an intensity few expected. Minutes after the debate ends, Twitter is flooded. The hashtag Crockett Clapback trends worldwide. In an instant, the clip of her flawless response to Cornyn's arrogant mockery circulates through every corner of the internet. People are posting, retweeting, commenting, and the messages are as diverse as they are powerful. From young activists to politicians, from celebrities to everyday citizens, everyone has something to say. Finally, someone who knows how to take on these establishment bullies. Hashtag Crockett Clapback, hashtag dignity wins. I don't know if I've ever seen someone own a moment like this. Jasmine Crockett is the future. Hashtag Crockett Clapback. Celebrities, too, join in. Chrissy Teigen posts, if you're not watching what just happened with Jasmine Crockett, you're missing the moment of the year. She's the voice we've been waiting for. Hashtag Crockett Clapback. LeBron James retweets a video clip of Crockett's response, adding his own thoughts, this right here. This is leadership. This is power. Hashtag Crockett Clapback. The floodgates have opened. Every major news outlet picks up the story, but it's the viral nature of social media that truly amplifies the moment. Political commentators who had once dismissed Crockett's rise now find themselves eating their words. This is the moment when Jasmine Crockett officially enters the national conversation, one anchor says, his voice laced with disbelief, admiration, and a little bit of envy. She stood up not just to John Cornyn, but to an entire political establishment that has been running on fumes for far too long. But it's not just political commentators who are weighing in. Grassroots organizations, advocacy groups, and influencers, all of them see Crockett's response as something more than just a sharp retort. They see it as a turning point, a galvanizing moment for the disenfranchised. Her words become a rallying cry for those who feel unseen and unheard. We've been fighting for years to make our voices count, and today Jasmine Crockett proved that the fight is worth it, reads one tweet from a major civil rights organization. The tweet includes a video of Crockett's exchange with Cornyn, which has now been viewed over 10 million times. As the hours tick by, the shockwaves of the moment continue to spread. Newsrooms are flooded with requests for interviews. Public figures, who had previously remained silent, now speak out in support of Crockett. The following day, a group of women in politics release a joint statement, acknowledging Crockett's courage and strength in the face of such an intense challenge. We stand with Jasmine Crockett. Her response today represents the voice of every woman, every person of color, every marginalized group that has ever been told to sit down, be quiet, and know their place. She is our voice, and she will not be silenced, the statement reads. For the millions who watched, Crockett's words have a far-reaching resonance. Her calm, dignified response to Cornyn is more than just a political takedown, it's a beacon of hope for those who have long felt that their struggles were invisible. The story is no longer about two politicians fighting for supremacy. It's about a shifting power dynamic, one where the establishment is being forced to reckon with the voices they've spent decades trying to silence. And the memes flood in. The internet, with its signature ability to turn anything into a cultural phenomenon, takes hold of the moment. Images of Crockett's poised response, now etched in internet history, become viral fodder. When they underestimate you and you make them regret it, one meme reads, accompanied by an image of Crockett's calm expression. Another meme humorously compares Cornyn's desperate, stumbling attempts to Crockett's serene, composed demeanor. The contrast is stark, and the memes drive home the point: dignity, intelligence, and composure always triumph over arrogance. But it's not just memes or social media posts. In the real world, the response continues to grow. The next day, a series of online petitions calling for more diverse representation in politics gained thousands of signatures. Activists and everyday citizens alike rally behind the sentiment that Crockett embodies: the fight for a system that listens, that values all voices, that doesn't leave anyone behind. As the days pass, the momentum only builds. Political pundits debate whether this moment could shift the political landscape, particularly for progressive candidates looking to challenge the status quo. Crockett's words today are a moment of reckoning for the GOP establishment, one commentator says. She's laid down the gauntlet in a way we haven't seen before. It's more than a clapback, it's the beginning of a new political era. The applause continues, not just from those who agree with her political stances, but from anyone who has ever been made to feel small, to feel like they don't matter. For those who face systemic oppression, for those who feel like they're forever on the outside looking in, Crockett's response is a validation of their struggles and a promise that change is possible. And in the midst of it all, one thing is clear: this moment belongs to Jasmine Crockett. Not just because she outshined Cornyn, but because she embodied something that so many people have been waiting for: someone who can speak truth to power, stand firm in the face of adversity, and win the battle for dignity and respect. The shockwaves of her response have reverberated through every corner of American politics, and they're not stopping anytime soon. Crockett has made her mark, and the world is watching. The whirlwind of the past few days begins to settle, but Jasmine Crockett can't help but reflect on the moment. As the dust clears, she finds herself standing at the intersection of something far larger than a mere political exchange. The media, the tweets, the memes, all of it is secondary now. What matters is the message that has resonated beyond the confines of the debate room. She sits quietly, reviewing the events that unfolded, the sharp words, the steady silence, and the overwhelming applause that followed her response. The applause wasn't just for a politician scoring a rhetorical point, it was for the truth that echoed in her words, the truth that so many have long been denied. The fight wasn't just about one man's arrogance or one woman's rise, it was a fight for something deeper: dignity, integrity, intelligence. In the midst of the political noise, it became clear to Crockett, this moment was never really about her, but about what she represented. She wasn't merely defending herself or challenging John Cornyn, she was defending the ideals that are the backbone of this country: equality, justice, and a system that should, at its core, serve the people, not the powerful. I didn't just speak for myself that day, she reflects, her voice soft but firm. I spoke for every person who's ever been told they don't belong. For every person who's been pushed to the margins because of who they are or where they come from. For every woman, every person of color, every immigrant, every worker, every single person who has ever been dismissed, ignored, or told that their voice doesn't matter. That was for them. That was for us. The more she thinks about it, the more Crockett realizes that the significance of the moment goes beyond the immediate applause. What she said, what she did, wasn't just a response to an insult, it was a reaffirmation of a powerful, universal truth. Dignity, integrity, and intelligence will always triumph over hatred and mockery. It may not always happen in the immediate aftermath, but it will happen. Because those who stand firm in their values, who speak truth to power, will always find their way into the light. They may face resistance, they may face attempts to tear them down, but the truth is unbreakable, and so are the people who speak it. Crockett's rise in politics was never meant to be about personal gain. It was never meant to be about fame or applause, it was about doing what was right. Her background, her struggles, her determination, these things made her uniquely suited to stand in that moment. She had faced the hard truths of this country's system. She had seen the inequalities firsthand, and she had witnessed the resistance that people like her face in their pursuit of justice. But that's what made her different, she didn't give up. She didn't let the hate or the mockery define her. She used those very things as fuel to continue fighting. And she realized that, in the process, she was carving a path for others to follow, a path where integrity wasn't a rarity but a necessity. As Crockett reflects, she knows this victory isn't hers alone. It's the victory of every person who's felt like an outsider, every person who's ever been told that their dreams were too big or their voice too small. This is the victory of a new generation of leaders, leaders who believe in progress, who fight for justice, who believe in a future where everyone has a seat at the table. And that's where the lesson lies. America's political system is broken. It always has been. But the truth is, it's not the system that's broken, it's the people who've been allowed to dominate it for far too long. The system wasn't built for people like Crockett. It wasn't built for people who are willing to stand up against the very forces that have kept the status quo intact. But Crockett's moment proved something undeniable: the system can be changed. It has to be changed. And it will be changed, because the voices of the people are stronger than any system of oppression. In a society that has often pushed people like her to the margins, Crockett's victory is a reminder that the power has always been with the people. The power to demand better. The power to stand up for justice. The power to say enough is enough. She stands as a beacon of hope and resilience, not just for her supporters, but for anyone who has ever felt overlooked or belittled. Her story is a testament to the fact that it is possible to rise above the noise, to rise above the hate, and to rise to something better, something more meaningful. And as she speaks now to the millions watching, she knows that this is just the beginning. The road ahead is long, and the fight for justice will not end with one debate, one moment, or one victory. But Crockett is ready. She's ready because she knows that the fight she's leading is for something greater than herself. It's a fight for the future of this country, for the future of every person who has ever been made to feel that they don't belong. I'm not here to play their game, she says, her voice resolute. I'm here to change the game. I'm here to make sure that the voices of the people are heard. And I'm here to fight for a future where everyone, has the chance to succeed. And with that, Crockett doesn't just speak to her supporters, she speaks to the heart of America. To the dream of a country that truly lives up to its ideals, where dignity and truth aren't just values, but the foundations of a better tomorrow. The fight is far from over. But Crockett has already shown what can happen when integrity stands in the face of injustice. And now, the world is watching. What started as a mocking attempt to belittle Jasmine Crockett quickly transformed into a defining moment of triumph, a moment that rippled across the nation, igniting a conversation about justice, dignity, and the kind of leadership this country truly needs. John Cornyn's words, intended to silence her, only gave Crockett the platform to speak louder than ever before. From mockery to triumph, from the depths of derision to the heights of empowerment, this was more than just a political exchange. It was a victory for every voice that has ever been silenced, every person who has been told they don't belong, and every citizen who dares to believe that integrity, truth, and dignity can and will overcome the forces that seek to oppress. As Crockett showed us, change doesn't come from conforming to the system, it comes from challenging it. It comes from standing up and speaking out, from refusing to let the powers that be dictate what's possible. Her victory is not just a personal one, it's a victory for us all. Now, it's your turn. The world is watching, and the future is in your hands. Ask yourself, how can you embody Crockett's dignity, her strength, her refusal to back down, in your own life? How can you stand up for what's right, even when the odds seem stacked against you? If this story has inspired you, if it's reminded you of the power that lies in truth and integrity, then take action. Share this video, subscribe for more stories of courage and justice, and let's continue to build a future where voices like Jasmine Crockett's aren't the exception, but the rule. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can lead with dignity, and we can demand the change we deserve.